Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. I think we'll kickstart it a little earlier. Baruch Hashem. Shabbat Shalom to all of you who are in the room. I'll probably kickstart my lecture in a minute, but before I do, I think it's probably good to give an intro, as I'm in a better place with a better internet access over here, and so it's probably, before I play my recorded lecture, it's probably worth to speak about current events regarding the Torah and everything else. So I think it'd be pertinent that I play my lecture, but I think before I do, it's very important that many of the people who I speak to on a daily basis, one thing I notice quite evidently, that religion seeps in and religion keeps rearing its head, and people think that they can try to get God outside somewhere of themselves. They think God is in the sky. They think God maybe is in a particular country, in a particular building, and you'll find that on your journey that many people are still institutionalized in their brains. And it is very important to uninstitutionalize yourself. In order to uninstitutionalize yourself, you really have to look outside the box. And I'll give you something. I've just installed Windows 11 update, and the whole thing is kind of completely new, a new interface, and I don't know where it hides things, so everything is kind of hidden. It's hidden, I don't know exactly where. So nevertheless, icons get hidden away, and as you pop one up, the other hides. So I'm not sure how to pull them back up. But anyhow, our Pasha today follows the Hanuch principle, which is Vaira, Genesis chapter 18, where Abraham meets God and God meets Abraham. But I want to just take you to Exodus chapters 20. And Exodus chapters 20 is really sums it up beautifully, what I'm trying to illustrate here. Let me see if I can find it. Torah-Prosperity. We'll go back. Jump far forward. 22. So, yeah, in Exodus chapters 20, verse 7, or in fact, verse 4, I'll start with. Verse 4. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in the Shemaim above, heavens above, that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the Maim and the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh, your power, am a devoted El, visiting the iniquity of the both on the fathers, on the children, to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. Now, devoted El, God is a devoted power to you and to me and to everybody else who wants to believe that God is there. And God tells us very particularly over here, God makes it very clear that we are not to search for God outside of ourselves. That's why it says, do not bow down to them. What is them? Means anything outside of ourselves. If you are bowing down to anything outside of yourselves, then sure, you found yourself you're looking for another God, you're seeking another God, and you are actually in what's termed idolatry. But today, many people ignorantly live in idolatry, because that's what they are doing. They're searching for God outside of themselves. But we are warned not to do that. Now, if you think that God is in Saudi Arabia, if you think God is in Israel, if you think He is in Rome, if you think He is in France, then, these are the 4 places where people tend to go to seek and search for God. Clearly, God does not dwell a building and anywhere in the planet today. He doesn't dwell any building, and there were times of old when he did have his presence in one of these places, but he no longer has his presence there. And his presence was evident when there was an erect building with a fully functioning priesthood alongside it. But until there was a destruction, the whole thing was destroyed, priesthood was scattered, Israel was scattered, and just the laymen and the poor people left in the land. And the land may be re-inhabited. People came back. Some people came back, some still outside, many still outside. But there is no presence of God. And God was very clear when God meets Abraham. I mean, it's very clear if people want to see it. It's not clear if you don't want to believe it. God is very clear that it says that, he came down to visit Abraham. He came down, he came to Abraham. Abraham did not go to him. I think that's particularly evident if you ever think about it, that God comes down to meet man. Man does not go up to meet God. He comes down and he meets man in his place. See, Abraham is right in his home. He's in his home. He's nowhere else. It says Yudhevah appeared to him where he lived. It doesn't say that Abraham went looking for him in some remote spot in Israel or somewhere else in the world. I think that's key evident that God is within you. And then it says that Abraham looked up and he saw God. Then it mentions 3 men. So, what does it mean? Well, if God is within you, it's quite evident that God is not hiding somewhere in the skies. Within you means he's within you. Within you means he's within everyone that he called up. I find highly, highly disturbing. And I think you probably will agree with me. If you are still struggling to make ends meet, then you've clearly not grasped the teachings of the Torah at all. You're still living in religion, and religion will never let you prosper. Make sure that you understand that point. Because once you start truly on the way of Torah is very flexible, very clear. But if you start on the way of the Torah, the way doesn't necessarily mean just how you walk. It means how you live, how you think, how you perform. Your actions, day-to-day actions, how you perform them. And your actions start with your morning. You get up in your morning. Maybe some of you get up at 3 o'clock. Maybe some of you get up at 4. Some of you get up at 5 and 6. Maybe even 7. And you do your daily exercises. One of the key exercises I always mention is some of you need to do is meditation. The meditation will help you to fine-tune yourselves, calm down, and slow down your brains, slow down your thinking, not think about other things, but think about the things you want to think about. Clear your brain, empower your brain, ground yourselves of unnecessary worry, disease, other things. Once you do that, you're well on your way to success and successful living. If all you're doing today is struggling and looking for answers outside, then clearly you're not in the landscape of Torah. You haven't learned anything from these lessons I've given the last 4 years. I've been trying to teach you that when you seek something, seek within, not without. When you want something, you write it down. You write it down what you want. So you're clear about it in the present tense. And you can write it in the future tense. If some of you feel that you want to write it in the future tense, like if you say, I want to acquire a house, sure, write it in the future tense if that's what you feel like you must do. But preferably write it in the present tense. I have my desired house. I have the apartment I want to live in. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I am healthy and whole. I am wonderful. Write it in the present tense. The Torah tells you to write it in the present tense as well. It says write your vision. It doesn't say write your vision in the future tense. Write the present tense. And then you just work on it. One of the things that I may talk about next week, or maybe the following week, will be letter writing. How to write a gratitude letter. We'll come back to that. But in the meantime, I think it'd be a good idea to understand the key points. Don't search for God outside of yourselves. God is within you. Imagination is God. You access God through imagination. Close your eyes. Seek within. God is there. Keep your belief system intact. If you believe something that you want to receive, doesn't matter what the price is, doesn't matter how much it costs, doesn't matter what kind of illness you have, doesn't matter how many times you've been defeated and you didn't get your desire, but it's time to get your desire. It's time to be disciplined about it. Discipline will lead to good habits. Good habits will lead to good successes. So discipline yourself. Set your times. Get up on time. Do things on time. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Let's take a simple task. You want to acquire $1 million. $1 million may not solve everybody's problem, but I'm pretty certain that $1 million will solve many of the people's problems. It will solve problems of a house, car, clothes, business, setting up a small business, and probably other things. You would have your house paid for, you would have your car paid for, you have your clothes paid for, you have some money in the bank, you'll even have a business. So it does solve many problems. Okay, if you have an illness, there's no guarantee that $1 million will cure your illness. But you can cure your illness as well. You don't need $1 million for that. You just need your belief system. You just need your imagination. And you can heal yourself. I was speaking to a cancer patient today. And I told him, I said, healing is within. And you must not let go of that truth. I said, you go to the doctors for healing. Doctors will only give you medications for the symptoms. They cannot heal you. You must not ever believe that. You must never give entertainment. You must never entertain the idea that a doctor is going to heal you. If you entertain that idea, you'll never be healed. I told him that if you want to overcome your cancer, start believing within yourself that you are healed. Start standing in front of the mirror and telling yourself that I am healed. I am perfectly whole. I am well. I feel fantastic. I'm in excellent health. I gave him all the little tips to make himself well. But I said, keep doing it. Don't, even in spite of the fact that you may have mouth cancer, it doesn't matter. Don't keep saying to yourself, well, I can't speak. I have mouth cancer. Oh, I am feeling down. Never, never, ever tell you that. I said, never love your disease. If you love your disease, the disease will stay. What you love will stay. What you hate will go. I said, do never accept the disease. Never accept a doctor telling you, oh, your tests have come back positive and you have cancer XYZ. Never accept it. The doctor may be telling you all this. Inside your head, you tell yourself, no, I do not accept your report. I reject your report. Inside your head. You don't even have to say it to his face. You tell yourself inside your head, no, I do not accept your report. I reject it. I have no cancer. I'm perfectly whole. I'm perfectly well. Keep denying it. Keep rejecting it. When you keep denying it and you keep rejecting it, you will cement that into reality. Over time, you rampage. And this is rampaging. When you say, no, I am well. Somebody tells you, no, you look awful. You look really bad. You look all down. No, I'm great. I'm fantastic. I am well. I'm healthy and whole. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm great. You keep telling yourself that. And that is what's going to cement into reality. Because you keep loving yourself into wholeness, into wellness, into wealth. Same way for $1 million. If you want $1 million, You don't keep telling yourself, oh, I can't pay that bill. I can't send my tithe today because I haven't got any money. It's pretty shameful if you earn $2,000 a month and you send $10 tithe. That means it's pretty shameful for you that you actually don't even abide to the Torah laws. You don't know how to abide to the Torah laws. I'm pretty sure $10 is not 10% of $2,000. It's just a fact. If that's where you are, then that's a pretty shameful fact. That you, after 4 years of teaching and training, you're still at $10, then there's something wrong with you. Then you shouldn't even be here. You should be somewhere else. It's plain clear that you haven't grasped the teachings. You haven't applied them. You know, I want to give a little eulogy for the late passing Rabbi, Hananiah. Very faithful man. He's a great guy. He did not ever miss his tithe. Even day he died, did you know that he sent his tithe in? You know, and I thought to myself, what a great man this was. What a great rabbi. What a great and faithful man. He lived a faithful life. You know, and he's in a better part of the world, and he'll be returning soon. And Baruch Hashem for that. What a great man that you think about. This man, you know, he listened to you, he obeyed the principles of the Torah, and he kept them. He did not go to the left and did not go to the right. And this is why I say, shame on you if you still haven't learned these things. You need to learn these things. You need to follow. You need to open your fist. You do not open your fist, you do not water, you will not receive. And that's the state of many people today. They think they can squeeze their hand shut and they think you can become rich. No, you're not going to become, you're going to become more poor. And poverty is going to follow you. But you don't know how to water. You need to learn how to water. If you don't water your plants, you plant a seed, you don't water it, it's going to wither away, it's going to die slowly. There's nothing going to come out of it. So you need to understand that. You need to apply all the principles of the Torah, not one half of them. And that's when you will see successes and results that will be, you know, outstanding, shining in your vision. This is why I said, if you want to get $1 million, don't let anybody tell you that you don't have $1 million. You need to believe that for yourself first, but you need to rampage on it. I am a millionaire. I'm a self-manifested millionaire. I manifest millions of dollars. Break it down if you want to. Break it down to weekly amounts. Break it down to daily amounts. You know, break it down to a daily amount. As I told you before, it's much easier to say, I'm making $1,000 a day. That's $365,000 a year. It's much easier to say that and much more believable. If you're having a belief issue, if your belief is twisted, and if you can't believe yourself that you're having that money, then you can do that. Then you can tell yourself that you have $1,000 a day, and you keep saying it. You keep telling yourself you will be making $1,000 a day. You will be making more than that. When you make 1,000, you double it up. When you get 2,000, you double it up. 4,000, you reach your $1 million figure. When you hit $4,000 a day, you already hit million. That's easy. That's how easy it can be. It can be very difficult. It can be very easy. What do you believe in? Do you believe in all the garbage that the world gives you? Obviously, you have been all this time. You've been fed all this garbage all this time, and you believed it, and that's where you are right now. And now you're trying to come out of the garbage. And you want to come out of the garbage. And you want to be somebody. And you want to be successful. So start telling yourself that. Don't tell me. Because I'm telling you that you can be successful. I'm telling you that you are successful. But I'm telling you, apply the principles. When you apply the principles of success, there is absolutely no way that anything can stop you. Look, I was in America not too long ago. I can travel to America in 2 seconds. You know, I can just buy a ticket and I'll be in America in 2 days' time. But the point is this, that God placed me over here for a reason. I was sent. I was sent to this country. I was sent to this city in Karachi, by the sea, to meet some people who desperately wanted a Kohen. They desperately wanted a man of God to come here and teach them. And God sent the Kohen himself. Isn't that amazing? He didn't send me to the richest man in the city. or one of the richest Torah believers. He sent me to one of the most humblest Torah believers, to his home, so that he may benefit, that he may have blessings in his home. And blessings are beginning to show up. Blessings are already showing up in his life. And things will spiral from here on. Blessings will never depart. They will never depart from this home. This is the power that the Kohen brings into this city. And things will start changing. Things will start changing for those that act, those that believe, those that hold to the faith, those that continue to believe and defy all odds. They defy all odds. When people tell them, no, well, you can't do it this way. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. And yes, I am. That's defying the odds. Remember the millionaire girl I was telling you about? She was trying to get hold of him for the last week. I put her on my voicemail. And so today I found her. And I spoke to her. I said, how's it going? She goes, I've been trying to get hold of you for a whole week. You put me on voicemail. I said, yeah, I did. I said, yeah, I did put you on voicemail. Because I was getting too many calls. Left, right, and center. People want to bury their dead and they're ringing me to give them some money to bury their dead. And I'm trying to eat my food in my home and I can't even eat my food because they want me to send them money. I said, I didn't come to Pakistan to bury all the dead or pay everybody's hospital bills. I said, enough is enough. You know how much money I've given to people over here? Free of charge? Left, right, and center. I've been watering left, right, and center. The garden is green. I said, so that's why I had to slow down a little bit. I had to, cut away a little bit. So she was like, well, okay, she was like, I wanted to get hold of you. She's talking about her property, her business, her wealth, what she wants to do with it. I told her, I said, I gave some really good sound advice, how she can multiply her money. And she said, okay, she wanted to do that. And I said, well, put it on hold till next year. And next year you get to work. And so she said, okay, she wants to meet me. I said, I don't really want to come to your city if I can avoid it. I have to pay 2 tolls and I have to drive all the way over there. Forget it. I'm tired of this driving, back and forth. And Google gave me a little list today and I was laughing at Google because Google sent me this little list of my journeys in what it looked like. It was maybe, Google, if you have a Google phone, as I have, it sends you once a month like a little listing of Google Maps timeline. And you know what Google told me? It told me where I've been, in which part of the city, and what cities I've visited. It said you visited 1 country, 2 cities, 23 places, it told me. My October places, that's just October. It said you visited 23 places. And it told me that I drove 197 miles in 48 hours, which is true, because I got stuck in some traffic over there when there was protests going on, and I was trying to get home, and I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning. I started at something like 6:30, and a 4-hour journey took me 8 hours to get home, because I had to go around these little villages at midnight, 1 o'clock, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and there was buses and trucks and, my goodness, double traffic on single road and broken roads. I had to come through that because the protesters blocked off the road at one end where we couldn't get through. And so my wife was really afraid. Oh, it's like midnight and she wanted me to go back. I says, no. I said, you're with the tiger. I said, the tiger is sitting here with you. The man who have, heart and has a strength and courage. I said, you think I'm going to just go back like a coward? Says, no, we only go forward. We don't go back. I will find a way home. You just be calm. Let me find the way. Midnight, I made the situation right. I found the way. I got ourselves home 3 o'clock in the morning. When people are afraid, you have to assure them that you're going to lead them home. You don't panic. I told her, I said, there's no panic. So you're with a warrior. And we don't panic. We make the route home and we go there. And I told her, you know what I told her? I said, start giving gratitude to God. Stop being thankful. And I started to give gratitude to God. Thank you, God. Thank you for making my way clear. Thank you. Because I know you're always with me. And God made my way clear. It's a matter of what you believe. It's not a matter of what you think. Doesn't matter what you think. So 150 trucks on the road. It doesn't matter about 150 or 200 trucks on the road and buses, occupying 2 lanes. Single lane traffic. So don't care. I'm going to get home. And I am home. This is a matter of belief. It's a matter of faith. And it is times like this that your valor comes out. When you really are the man. They said, oh, these are dacoits. There's dacoits all over the place. There's robbers. I said, to hell with the robbers. I'll drive my car over them. I said, you think I'm going to stop? I said, I'm going to drive my car over them. If they come in my way, I'm going to drive my car over them. I said, they touch my car, I'm going to break their hands and then break their fingers as well. I said, you don't know what kind of rabbi I am. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. And my wife is seeing that. I said, if I come out of my car, he's dead meat. I don't care if it's 1 or if it's 10 of them. I said, best I stay in my car. Because my hands are hammers. And my feet, I said, they are axes. And when they strike somebody, that person won't be standing. He'll be on the floor. And so, I briefed my wife. I said to her, do not worry. I'll get you home. Don't panic. I will get you home. Don't worry about, dacoits and this, that, and the other. I said, I was brought up in guns and knives. It doesn't matter. These are little things. And so I took her home safely, brought her home. Then I told her, see, you got to listen to the man when he tells you to listen. And so she listened and she saw the action and results of that. See, it's times like this when you panic. You got a protest in front of you, people burning cars and trucks. That's the kind of protest we had ahead of us. And behind us, we had 8 hours of journey. If I went back, the same route, I would have taken me 8 hours to get home. But in front of me, I had to just take a left turn and I would be home in 3 hours. So it's like, I'd rather take a left turn. I'd go left and I'll get my wife home safely. I said to my wife, I said, it's my duty to get you home safely. She said, can I drive the car? I said, no. You'll drive the car when I get home. I will drive the car. See, this is not your place to drive the car. So there are times you have to take situation in your hand. You have to be the man. And you have to show that who's in control and who's got his head straight. Women can be very afraid in places like that. Fear can envelop people. So you have to take charge and be the person that you're supposed to be. So this is why I said, people will tell you, oh, it won't work. They will tell you it's not going to happen. They're going to tell you, no, it's not possible. And you're going to tell them, no, I am a millionaire. No, I manifest millions of dollars. Yes, I manifest millions of dollars. Yes, I'm great. Yes, I'm wonderful. And yes, I'm the best driver in the world. And yes, I'm a warrior. You have to tell yourself that. So with that, I'm going to play my recording for you. And then after that, I'll hand it over to Rabbi Kefa. But I'm going to play the recording. But I'm still here live. And I'll take any questions at the end of that. So just listen in and let me know if there's any voice issues. I'll raise a voice if necessary. It should be fine.
Rabbi Simon for him. Welcome to the room. And today our lecture is going to be on Parshas Vayira. Now, if you remember, I did tell you in the last lectures that we are switching back to the Hanuf calendar, Parshas, and on that, the Parsha is the one I'm going to speak about today, and we will talk about revision as well. Now, as I explained last time, that we do not follow, nor do we recommend that you follow traditions. However, if you desire to follow traditions, then it is entirely up to you, because they will lead you nowhere in life. That is my personal experience of many hundreds and thousands of students who follow traditions. They never got anywhere in their life until they came to the pure teachings of the Torah and the fundamentals, methods that the Torah teaches of the manifesting law. That's when they saw changes. I want to remind you that our ancient forefathers, when the temple was overtaken by a corrupt hierarchy, and at a time when seeds were openly bought and sold for the highest bidder, because the temple had seats that people could buy, and they would have they could visit the temple and sit and have some kind of authority structured. And you will find that structure in the books of the New Testament, where they speak about people like Joseph of Arimathea, who actually also had a temple seat. Now, he wasn't corrupt, of course. He was a righteous man. But I'm just talking about the time period soon after or at least when the Herod's temple was built. That was a very difficult time for our people in Israel, who at a time when the temple was not being operated as it should, there were a number of priests that departed from the temple, and they built a community in Qumran, and they followed the Hanul calendar. They did not follow any Jewish calendar that today many of you follow. They did not follow those calendars. They followed the calendar, excuse me, and they followed the calendar of our forefathers, that is going back to Moses, and that was a solar calendar. So based on that, I'm going back to the same model, that we are to follow the solar calendar. And I know that some of my students that follow the lunar calendar. That's not a issue in so regards to the festivals, because the way I look at it, as long as you celebrate the festivals and you do it on a solar or a lunar calendar, there is still that heart's desire to follow a festival that is mentioned in the Torah, the 7 festivals. So therefore it's not a big deal, but our concern is not so much with which calendar you use to follow the festivals so much, but that this just happens to be the order that was set prior to, I would say, even the birth of what many Christians believe to be the birth of the Messiah. Now, I don't follow that law. I do not follow that belief system. I do not believe that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah in any particular order. However, you could call him a great teacher, a great man, and some even call him a great prophet, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with those titles. But in Torah Judaism, a Messiah is a figure that is a king or a prophet, but he has to be at a predetermined time and in a predetermined order. And in this particular scenario, we did not see Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, sit on a throne and hold a scepter in his hand and rule Israel with the Torah. Since we did not see that, I think it is useless to argue his messiahship. There's no need to argue his messiahship. He could be a Messiah in the sense that he did many great works, many good miracles, and that's perfectly fine as well. He healed people, and he said that his students will heal many more, and they will do greater miracles. So again, as a rabbi, as a teacher, he did many good works. And if you follow him as a rabbi and a teacher, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you followed him as the Messiah, I still don't, I'm not against you in any particular way. I don't need to be. Because for me, Torah is king. Torah is law. And that will never change. So, based that in mind, I wanted to bring you to a point in this Parsha, in this Torah portion, Vayira, which is Bereshit, Genesis 18:1, which says, then Yud-He-Vah-He, that is, Yahweh appeared to him by the terebinth trees Etzim of Mamre, as he was sitting by the tent door in the heat of the day. Now, it is interesting to note who is the he, and people have assumed the he is Abraham. Well, there are two he's over here. One he is the person who sat here as a teacher. When Abraham came into the land, that is the first place he visited to meet the seer, I would say the teacher, the seer, the prophet who was in the land. We're not given names of who that person was, but sitting under the tree was always a prophet, stroke teacher, stroke master. And Abraham came to him, paid him a visit, made his shalom, took his advice, and then went on his way to the other parts of the land. And you can read about those different histories. When you go to places like Genesis chapter 12, where he is instructed to go to himself, not go to some particular land, because the land followed after. He was told to go to yourself, meaning access God within you. And it then describes Abraham's passage, and it talks about that he passed to the place of Shechem as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh. Now, Moreh meaning teacher in Hebrew. Here, there was an ancient shrine, and Abraham built an altar there to the name of God. And of course, the ancient shrine was for the ancient prophets, ancient teachers. And here, Abraham, in the likewise, as I described earlier, he was sitting at the terebinth tree. So the he here is pointing to two different people, one in the past, one in the present, and probably one in the future. So these terebinth trees of Mamre, call it oak trees for instance, for argument's sake, these are the trees where the teacher sat. So Abraham also sat there as a prophet and as a seer, as he was described as a prophet and a seer and a teacher, because he raised many people in the Torah. So it says he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And those men are described as 3 angels, as God and 2 angels, and in different scenarios. And all of that is true. It is also 3 angels, it is also God and 2 angels, and it is also that then 2 angels go on to depart to go to Sodom and Gomorrah. All of that is true as well. Now, what is so important over here? A very important thing over here, it says, so he lifted his eyes and looked. And note, in this translation of the Abrahamic-Faith, or Hidden Truths of Blake School's Bible, it says he lifted his eyes. I think that is pretty important passage. A very important passage. Why? Because if you look, the word Nisa is to lift up. And of course the Ain, the Hebrew word, is for the eyes. And the rest of the eyes were looking. And it says he saw 3 men. It's important to understand, where did he lift his eyes up? Where exactly? So we have to look at the poetical, the mystical meanings of this more than the literal meanings to understand that Abraham lifted his eyes, and he looked within. It's pretty important to understand that. The 3 entities, if we take it in the mystical way, are the 3 entities are your rational mind, your subconscious, your supermind. See, there is another supermind as well, but that is not visible to the naked eye, but it is there. It is like the womb the womb chakra. As you know that we have a chakra in the navel. We also have a womb in the female bodies, but we also have a womb chakra or womb center. And this center exists in everybody, male and female. But the males, you cannot see it. It's not visible, but it is there. And it is acknowledged by many cultures. Indian culture, for instance, they acknowledge it. They tell you that yes, it is there. And they believe that for thousands of years. Maybe their 6,000 year history, they believe that. So it is interesting to note that these are the three centers that Abraham technically referenced, where he saw the three centers, or at least he referenced the three centers. The whole story is very poetical. If you look at the whole structure of the story in Genesis 18, it talks about God's visit, talks about the angels, it talks about the Passover ceremony that was conducted, and we do not see the same Passover ceremony today because Abraham ate milk and cheese, if you want to call it, milk and meat together, and the Jewish people today that are so ignorant in their own language that they have twisted and turned it around to make it sound like you cannot eat cheese with milk, rather with meat. And that is unfortunately a misinterpretation of translations in the Torah of two key passages, which we are not here to look at today, which I may have looked at them in the past. I think I did. And one of them is in Exodus and talks about the milk and the meat. But those are not talking about the milk and the meat, by the way. So, you'll have to pick up the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, Hidden Truths and Break Scrolls. You'll find out that that's not talking about milk and meat at all. However, their modern translations have made it like that, and that is incorrect. So the poetical story that I wanted to focus on a little bit was about Abraham. His wife Sarah was barren, and then she begets a son called Isaac. We'll just focus on those three aspects. Take a man or a woman who is barren in the sense that she has not conceived a desire, and then she conceives a desire, a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. A man or a woman may conceive a desire. You take a desire, and it could be anything. It could be an amount of money. It could be a job of certain salary. It could be somebody's health. They want healing from a particular illness. It could be a house. It could be a car that you desire. It could be anything. And it doesn't matter who's the desirer. The desirer could be a male or female. It's irrelevant. What's relevant is there is a person who desires something. This is the story of chapter 18. There is a person who desires something, and these are characters, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac. These are characters that are referencing the desire. Abraham desires a son. Sarah desires a son, and Isaac is the son. Sarah, of course, is past the childbearing age, and the way the story is turned and twisted to show that she is past that age where normally women conceive, and she conceives at a very late age, which is today, maybe even in the past, was considered to be impossible, but it was possible because we're talking here about a desire now. We're looking at the mystical meaning that Abraham did not take a sheep or a goat. He took a red heifer, which you can find in verse 7 of Genesis 18, that Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender, good heifer, gave it to a young man, and he hastened to prepare it. So these are all elements of the poetical story. He took butter and milk, and he took calf, which he prepared and set it before them. So we look at it that here is a man or a woman, male or female, in our world today, 21st century, that desires something and they go to God. See, God appears in this picture. So where do you go? Well, you don't go outside begging for a car or healing. You don't go to a building begging for a healing. Many people do, by the way. They do that today. But really, wherever you are, in your place of abode, you sit down and you go to God. God is within you. Kingdom is within. Irrespective of the beliefs that many of you have been brought up, including myself, it doesn't matter about those beliefs. They are what people follow, and they'll continue to follow them for maybe the next, who knows, next 5,000 years. It doesn't really matter, because God is not there. God is here. And that is the illustrative point of the story, that God is here. Therefore you go to God, you place your desire upon God, or you give it to God, you pass your desire to God, and God then brings it to pass. And that is the process of imagination, is where you take your desire, you close your eyes, you go into imaginative mode, you're almost in a state akin to sleep. You don't have to sleep at night and to do that. You can do it during the day, where you take a nap, you go into this desired state of between sleep and awake, and you start to imagine the desire that you want to manifest. And that could be $1 million, 50 million, 100 million. That could be a business. That could be a job. That could be many things. And so therefore, you place that desire, and you don't do it just one time. I'd encourage you to do this every day for at least 30 days, and I would say even more, because the way you should do it is the way we illustrated in the past, that you do it at least, this imaginative act, I'd encourage you to do it 2-3 times a day, even small chunks, 5 minutes, 10 minutes chunks. And if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. If you stay awake, you stay awake. And you come out of that state, and you can run it in your mind, and you can do it three times at least a day. And if you find that 3 times is too much, then you just do it at least 1 time a day, until that desire manifests. Now, all the moving parts in that desire, there are going to be many moving parts, what we call the bridge of incidents that take place. And we do not know exactly how God is going to bring that desire into your life in front of you. But because there are many moving parts to it, God knows exactly which people to coordinate, which events to bring to pass to make that desire happen. You've just got to be diligent. You just got to place your belief system that is going to happen. That's all you got to believe. You don't need to believe anything else. And you can have, sometimes people have disbelief. They can have their disbelief, but it will still happen. So this is a good place to study your disbelief. If you have a disbelief that you think, well, how is that possible? How can I get $1 million? How can I get $5 million when I don't have a business? How do I get a $100,000 job when I don't have education? How do I get healing when I don't take medicine? See, again, this is where logic comes in, and it destroys people's thinking, because logic is what dictates all these things. Logic says that you got to have a fantastic PhD to be earning a 6-figure salary. Logic says that you got to have fantastic medicine to heal your cancer or some other illness. And logic says that without education you can't get a job. So the first thing that you need to remove from your mindset is logic. Logic is the biggest killer of people's desires. If you look at a a graveyard today, there are many people lying in those graves today, young and old, who have many desires, and their desires are buried in the ground. And they could have fulfilled those desires in their lifetime, but they didn't because of logic, or maybe some religious belief. The religious belief said that unless you go to a temple, unless you go to this place, unless you go to a particular shrine, then, only then maybe God will hear you. And this is not true. So, I suggest you meet your desire right where you are. And that's where you will meet your desire. You will find the truth right there, and it will come to you. You just got to practice. Practice your imagination. It's like a muscle. It's like when you go to the gym and you practice your weights. You go there first time and, you try to lift maybe a 5 kilogram or 10 pounds of dumbbell, and you find that you can't lift it. You're not strong enough. Then you say, okay, I'll halve it. I'll go from 10 to 5 pounds. I'll try 5 pounds, and you do 5 pounds. Yeah, it's a little heavy, but you're able to just about manage to lift it. And you maybe do a couple of rounds. Maybe you do 2, 3 of those sets. And your arm is tired. You put it down. You come back the next day. You do the same. This time you do not 3 reps. This time maybe you do 5 reps and you're tired and you put it down. The next time you come, and this time maybe you do 7 reps and you get tired, you put it down. The next time you do 10 reps and you put it down. Now, slowly, you're building your stamina, your breathing, and your strength in your arm, where you can lift it and do 10 reps and you put it down. And now that you're comfortable after a week, maybe after 2 weeks, you're very comfortable, you can easily lift up 5 pounds and your arm is easily able to do 10 reps. Then the following week you decide that, okay, I'm comfortable now. Now I'm going to go for 10 pounds. I'm going to double it up. There's going to be more tension, and I'm going to do maybe less reps, but I'm going to try slightly heavier weight of the dumbbell. So you pick up 10 pounds and you lift it, and this time you can hardly just manage to do 4, and maybe even just 3, and you're tired, you put it down. But you manage to do 3. The first time you won't even able to do 1. So the next time you come, the next day, you now manage to do 4. And the next day, 5. Now you can do 5 of the heavier 10-pound weight. And you build your arm strength day by day, week by week. By the way, we apply the same principle to imagination. You imagine every day, 2 to 3 times a day, where possible. And if it's not possible 2 to 3 times a day, every night you go to bed, you can do it at that time. Or whatever time you go to bed, and you do it. And it is possible. And you build your imaginative muscle. So when you build your imaginative muscle, your imagination gets better and better. And those of you who think they are having a hard time imaginative act, they can do scripting, they can write, and the writing will have the same effect. And again, the times vary. You can write your desire out in the present tense. I am a millionaire, or I have received $1 million. Even more better affirmations. Why have I received $1 million? Why am I a millionaire? Or another way, I am a self-manifested millionaire. I am a self-manifested millionaire is a very powerful statement. You can do that every day. So you build you can speak it. There is vocal, there is writing, and there is vocal, and there is imagination. These are 3 different techniques. The vocal one, you speak it. You just say it. I am a self-manifested millionaire. Or I have received $1 million. These are vocal statements. You can issue different set of commands You can issue a command also. You can do it in a command-based, which we call an intention. And a command-based intention is almost like you say to a servant of yours, please come here and get me a cup of coffee. Or you might say to a waiter in a hotel, please bring me a cup of coffee. Same way, you can request a command based to your subconscious, and you can say, subconscious, I want you to bring me $1 million. Subconscious, I want you to bring me $5 million. Subconscious, I request you to give me complete healing. Subconscious, I request you to give me a 6-figure salary. These are all valid commands that will be acted on by the subconscious, which is your connection to God. So I highly encourage you to think about the techniques that you can adapt to bring your desire to pass. We're not talking about here by any rote method where you have to go to a building and then do these things. There's no need. And there are many billionaires in the world. There are many millionaires in the world. They did not go to a building and they did not get their millions. If they be honest with you, and they will tell you, sometimes they say, oh, my hard work, or I'm self-created millionaire, or I worked very hard. Essentially, it's nothing to do with hard work. It's their intention. They set an intention that I want to create $1 million business, and they did. They set an intention to create $1 million business, and they created $1 million business. That was the intention. Now, whatever else they did is secondary. Now, they're telling you, when they come back to you, they don't say to you, yeah, I set an intention. They don't tell you the initial beginning. They'll just tell you, yeah, I worked very hard. See, the work very hard part is really a latter part, which we call bridge of incident. The bridge of incident is the part that they tell you that they did to bring it, but that's not true. The bridge of incident was created. Now, a man or a woman who desires an amount of wealth, they go from place A to B. Maybe they shift into different cities in their country to adapt to a particular business in their environment. Now, I call this states. States meaning within yourself. You change your state. Your state could be a state in which you see yourself as a businessman, businesswoman, and very successful. That's a state. I mean, you may have nothing to your name today, but when you start seeing yourself as a businessman and as a businesswoman, and you continue to see yourself in your mind's eye, in your imaginative act, as that person who has a business, who's very successful, who's got houses, cars, who's got, assets, different types of assets. And that is only possible when you train your imagination. So I would encourage you to train imagination. Train your imagination daily. Train it. 2-3 times a day is great. If you can't do it 2-3 times a day, do it 1 time a day. Train. Do not give up. Train your imagination. Now, revision. Revision is an act of revising something in the past or something in the present. Let's say that you had a fight in the past with your spouse and you want to revise it to that fight never occurred. It's just a piece of memory in your head. You go to your past memory, you close your eyes, you can do it open eyes as well, or close eyes, and you revise it, you never had that fight. You continue to revise that, maybe for 5, 6, 7 days, you revise it, never had that fight. And if you lost a relationship as a result of that fight, that relationship will get restored in the sense that because that fight has been removed. because there's no memory. And the memory doesn't just happen in your memory. It also, when you do that, when you revise, it also happens in the other person's memory as well. Both memories get deleted and revised. So what's another way to revise? Like one of my students wrote to me and said that, his mom, she takes medications for her health, and if she don't take medications properly, she can fall back into illness. And so he told me that, she fell back into illness probably because of neglect of medicine or something. So I told him to revise on the spot. Revise. What's a revision? How do you revise it? Well, let's say, assume that you're on the phone call or verbally talking to somebody, and they're telling you that, I became ill again, or so-and-so became ill again. But you're only hearing, you're revising at the present. You're revising in the present. And you're only hearing, you're not hearing that they're ill. You're only hearing that they are well. They're whole. They're complete. They're in great health. So the person is telling you that they're ill, but you're hearing, no, they're in great health. You're saying, no, they're in great health. They're perfectly whole. That is what I call revision on the spot, in the present. So you can do that for a friend. You can do that for a family member. When somebody tells you that, I don't have enough finances, and you can revise and say, no, you do have finances. No, they have finances. Or somebody says, I don't have a job. You can say, no, they have a job. That's revision. That's you are helping them to attain their desire. They keep saying to you no, but you keep saying yes. Yes, they have a job. Yes, they are healthy. Yes, they are whole. Yes, they are grateful. Yes, they are wonderful. Yes, they are happy. You see the revision. I did a revision act for an individual that I met in one particular city where he was very sad due to loss of his spouse. And that had occurred 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer. It was very sad, sad eyes, downtrodden. And I saw him in my mind at the spot. When I saw him, his face there, I saw in my mind his face being happy and a smile. I did not see him as a sad person. I revised on the spot, seeing him as a happy person with a smile on his face. And the next time I met that person, maybe that was about 3 or 4 days later, when I met that person, he had a smile on his face. He was no longer downtrodden. So you can revise on the spot for somebody, and it will be of great help to them. But you have to do it. You have to be the carrier of that. And if you're the carrier of that, wonderful, it's great. And it works. So revise, revise, revise. Help other people. Revise for them. When they don't know what they are saying, you can help revise, and they are saying to you positive instead of negative. They may be speaking negative to you, but you're only hearing positive. You're saying, no, I only hear positive. And it's a statement. I only hear positive all the time. I only receive positive statements all the time. I am a positive person. Recently, I saw an Indian movie. In this particular movie, there were 4 characters that were taken for... basically, within the movie, there was a movie. And the movie that was being made was about 4 freedom fighters in India, in the British Raj, and how they fought for freedom and died trying to free up India at that time. So the interesting part of that movie was that this particular woman who comes from England, this British woman, she comes from England, and the memoirs of that history were written by her own grandfather, who was at the time was the appointed officer in the Indian side, and he was dealing with these people. So she was using her grandfather's memoirs to recreate the events, to write the history of what actually happened versus what people think happened. And so she picks up she comes to India and finds 4 characters who play the part of 4 freedom fighters. Now, these 4 characters originally had no interest in any freedom fighter characters and whatsoever. They were not interested. They were, students in university. They were enjoying their life. They were from fairly affluent backgrounds, and they didn't care about life, period. They were happy to be wherever they were, and they didn't care about India and what happened in the past. All of that was for them just headlines, nothing else. And so what happens is that these 4 people, when they take upon the characters of those 4 freedom fighters, they almost have to become like them in thinking. They have to think like them, they have to behave like them, they have to dress like them. So the film was being made of these 4 characters inside this movie, where they were behaving like those characters. And what happens ultimately is they take on the form of those 4 characters, literally. And then in real life, there is some corruption between the defense minister in India and some other ministers and some other high-profile weapon sellers. And one of their friends, he's a fighter pilot, and he dies in a plane crash. And then these 4 decide, alongside the widow of that fighter pilot, that negligence had been committed by the defense minister, who had allowed 4 parts, cheap parts, to be put into the plane, which caused the crash. And then the defense minister ended up blaming the fighter pilot, that it's his fault, he was negligent, etc., trying to lay the blame on the pilot. So these 4 are then going to take revenge, so to speak, for their deceased friend and the widow, and they go out to kill this person. They kill the defense minister and also one of the boys' own father, who was this part of this 4 group, was one of the boys. His own father was the weapon provider, like he was a weapon salesperson who, supplied the armaments, things like that, parts for the plane. He's a rich fella, and this young lad ends up killing his father in revenge because they want justice, and justice is not given to them in society. In society, those people are heroes, the ones who committed the crimes, and the ones who didn't do nothing have become criminals. So in the end, these 4 literally die in a radio station where they're trying to broadcast what happened and why they killed the defense minister and why that young man ended up killing his own father because of the crimes he felt his father committed. So my point of giving you this story is that in real life situation, this is a movie and they're illustrating something that happened, possibly 80, 90 years ago. And what I'm trying to say is, in real life, you can think of yourselves as actors. You are all actors in real life, and you're acting out the part you want to be. Okay? So if you want to be a wealthy person, if you want to be a rich man, a businessman, what would you do? What would it feel like? What would be your actions? These are the things that you need to incorporate in your life and in your mind. You need to think in your imaginative act, what would I do if I was a rich man, I had $100 million in my account, or whatever other amount that you desire to have? What would I be doing? What would I do with that amount? What properties am I going to buy? Where am I going to put my investment? Number 1. Number 2, how would I feel? What kind of clothes am I wearing? What kind of perfume am I using? Those kind of things. Number 3, how do I talk to people? Would I change the way I talk to people? Would I talk differently? Would I talk the same? Would I be, upright, stand up straight and be very confident? Or would I still be, backstage quiet, etc.? So you need to take on the character of the person you're trying to become. When you take on the character of the person you're trying to become, that is when your imaginative act takes on reality and it starts to develop into real 3D world. That's when it comes into your world. If you can't even imagine let's say for a second, if you don't know what it feels like to be a millionaire, then of course you're going to struggle, you're going to have difficulty. And sure, you can do the telephone conversation technique that often never talked about, in which you receive a call from a friend and they congratulate you for the money, and you don't know anything else about, well, how does it feel? But if you could add the feeling, I mean, you all watched movies one time or other in your lives. You all know what it feels like. What do rich people do in films? What do rich people do in real life? How do they do, what cars do they drive? What homes do they live in? So these are the things that you need to incorporate into your imagination. I mean, you're not going to be living in a 3-bedroom house as somebody who has maybe a $15 million in your account, maybe 50 million, maybe 100 million. I don't think you'll be living in a 3-bedroom house. You may be living in a slightly bigger house. Maybe, it doesn't have to be completely private, but it may be set in a country setting. It might be, definitely not a 3-bed, I can tell you that. I can tell you that maybe a 5-bedroom house, maybe more rooms, possibly, but 5 rooms is good. So you have a 5-bedroom house, you have a private, your drive, and you have your private garages, and you have maybe 2, 3, 4 acres of land with it. That's the kind of setting that you'd probably establish for yourself if you had some serious cash in your accounts. So that is what I want you to bring the feeling of, what would it feel like? What would you do? What would be your reaction? How would you start to go into business? What kind of businesses would you like to be involved in? These are the kind of things that you think through for yourself. And you write them, I would suggest you write them down. Don't just think. Write them down point by point. If I received X amount of money, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a home, X number of bedrooms. I'm going to get such and such car. I'm going to invest my money in such and such business. I want to go and shop in such and such store, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Once you get that good grip on that, there is nothing stopping you from getting your desire, because now you know everything. Now you know what it feels like. Now you know what you want to do. Now you've already established ahead of play which lawyers you're going to contact, which chartered accountant you're going to speak to, etc. To place your money maybe in a trust, etc. You get my gist, what I'm trying to tell you. That's where you need to be. You need to be there. Don't just think, I get a pile of money and that's good. No, don't just think pile of money. You want to think about what will you do with that pile of money? Where will you be, what kind of lawyer you want to hire? What kind of accountant will you be speaking to? Then, would you be making a trust? And if you're making a trust, then what do you do with that money from there on? You buy a home, you place it in a trust. You buy a business, you place it in a trust, etc., etc. And once you're there, my goodness, you're already there. Once you're there, now your imaginative act begins to take real shape and form. So you're acting the part. Think of yourselves acting the complete part of that person that you want to be. And you will be that person.
So with that being said, now here's my question. Would you be sending $10 as a donation if you consider yourself a millionaire? What would you be giving as an offering to God? Would it be $10? Would it be $100? Would it be $1,000? Would it be $10,000? These are the questions that you need to address. And if you're still struggling and you're still stuck with $10 tithes, then you've got a big problem on your hands. Because the Kohen in the gate, when somebody comes to him and says, I am downtrodden and I have a serious problem on my hand and I can't bury my dead, you know what the Kohen on the spot gives that person? You'll be ashamed to know that the Kohen on the spot gives that person $300 to $400 at a time, maybe $1,000 at a time for a hospital visit and an operation. You would never compete with the Kohen in the gate, never. Because I am the best Kohen in the world. And I look after those that come to me. I think about myself. What am I? What am I? Am I poor? Am I rich? Am I wealthy? I'm a Kohen, and I'm the best Kohen in the world. And I will help this person, and I will make sure he gets through. That's my thinking. My thinking is not, let me search my pocket for $10, and give him 10. Maybe I'll squeeze 15. Shame on you if you do that. You never learn anything from me if that's what you're still doing. You know why Africans are poor? You know why people in Africa are still living in a back dump? You know where Europeans are taking their money? Is because of the way they think, the way they act. This is why I said you are all playing the part of actors. Jim Carrey did not become a millionaire by thinking he's going to remain as a poor person. Jim Carrey carried a $10 million check, handmade check by a piece of paper from a copy notepad. You know, he took a notepad, he cut a piece of paper out and put on there to Jim Carrey, $10 million, date, and the $10 million amount, and he put it in his pocket in his wallet. And he carried that wallet with himself for 10 years. And after 10 years, a director came to him and said, Jim, we want you to be in our movie. Here is $10 million for that movie. That is belief. Jim Carrey acted the part. Are you acting the part? Are you still acting a beggar? If you're still acting a beggar, then I highly recommend that you go back and study the books of our forefathers. Properly this time. Not religiously. Don't look for religious answers. Look for real meanings. Look how you live. Look how you act. Look how you dress. These are all things that tell you who you are. If you dress like a grunge, then what do you think you're going to be? That's the part you're playing. You know, when I go out, in this country, when I go out, people look at me. You know, they look at me and they think, he's different. He's not like everybody else. And I am different. And I am the best. And I'm the best Kohen in the world. And I'll always be the best. And I'll be the best teacher in the world. I'll always be the best teacher in the world. Because people come to me and say to me, you don't look like you're from here. Where are you from? They ask me. And I tell them where I'm from. I tell them I'm from the great land, the land of the free, America. And here they're like, yeah, we thought you're not from here. But if the land of the free are acting like paupers and grunges, shame on you. We live in a great land, a land of milk and honey, a land of the free. Act the people that you're meant to be, the children of Israel, blessed people, and yet you act like grunges. Put your hand deep in your pocket sometimes and think like me. Think like your teacher. You know that girl, I only spent 1 or 2 days with her just talking to her and telling her what she's going to receive. And 3 months later, she's a millionairess because she believed me. She believed what I told her. And that's why she keeps chasing me now, keeps phoning me. I just had a phone call from her just now, and I'm going to phone her back. And she keeps phoning me because she wants me to assist her in making her investment for her. I told her today. I said to her that the idea I gave you for investment will set your life to 7 generations of wealth if you act on that idea. And if you don't, then it's your money. You do with it what you want to. I will have no part with it. And you know what she told me? She calls me Sam. She said, Sam, I want to buy you a horse. Do you like horses? I said, horses are very hard to keep. And I said, I'm not in one place more than, long enough to look after a horse. So I said, don't go and buy a horse yet. Hold off. So that's the kind of person I am. I have a big heart and an open hand. Learn from me and you will do well. And if you're not learned from me, then you remain the paupers that you are. Okay. Over to you, Rabbi Kefa. Today for listening and have a great Shabbat.
Start the recording here. Yeah, Todah Rabbi HaKohen. I tell you, we have truly been, if I could say this, we are truly lucky. All of you, wherever your background, whatever your background is, you understand you haven't heard teachings like this nowhere from a man. I can guarantee you probably all, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I can guarantee that's what the majority of you are saying, and this is why you're still here. because you haven't heard, you haven't got the meat and potatoes of what life is really all about. You haven't. I mean, it's just, that's just the facts on the ground. When you're honest with yourself, that's just the facts on the ground. And so, yeah, take it to heed, take it to heart, put it in your head, and more importantly, put it in your subconscious so that you can really understand and you won't be swayed going to and fro and all these other places. Because, with technology today, which is truly a blessing, you must understand as well that, we're in an information age. How many of you understand that? My goodness, I see it in my 2-year-old son. He can take a phone and just dissect it in a minute. He can go through it and he can find and navigate himself to wherever he wants to go. Just at the punch of a little finger, that his little finger, he can just take himself to wherever he wants to go, in the world. He was phoning up China the other day. I'm like, my goodness, honey, take that phone away from him. He's phoning people in China. He's sending pictures. He sent pictures on a Chinese social media site of himself to people in China. I'm like, my goodness, my son Lakshan is going viral, Baruch Hashem. But yeah, so just at the click of a finger, you can take and receive information, and it truly is a great benefit to have this at our disposal. But again, what good is it if you're not utilizing it properly to your benefit? That's what's important. And this is why I'm gonna hang my hat here in in Bereshit in this Parsha Vieira. I'm gonna look at Genesis chapter 19 today. I'm gonna open that up a little bit and look at this relationship that played out here and go from there. But we want to look at this, and I named and I titled this lecture with a question: what land do you live in? If I ask you that question right now, what would be your response? What land do you live in? And this kind of ties in with what Akon was talking about, because he was talking about, the benefits of land and orientation, because that's one of the first questions people ask you is, where are you from? That's a question that comes up in a relationship, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you crank up a conversation with anybody in a relationship, isn't that one of the major questions that is asked, if not the first question, is where you're from? Am I right? I mean, and that's a question that you can take, and that's a deep question. Because think about it for a minute. Where are you from? If someone would ask you that question, what do you say? Or when you ask yourself that question, because that's the important question that you need to ask yourself, is where are you from? Yael woman of 10 said, one flowing with milk and honey, Baruch Hashem. Ask yourself that question. This is not somebody else, third party, asking you this question, but this is yourself asking self, where are you from? And it's really not difficult to see where you are from. You can give a response, but again, your physical presentation and the physical manifestation will tell you where you're at. Where you're from. You see, where are you from? You see, what land do you live in? You see, because again, we take this as like a superficial type question, when it really is it really is a deep question that can really get to the insides of an individual, and more importantly of ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we want to be really want to be honest judges of ourselves, not outward judging, because that's what got Sodom and Gomorrah in a lot of trouble, is because they took their judgments on other people, and they judged unjustly, and justice wasn't served properly. So when we look at ourselves, we want to ask ourselves this question: what land do I live in? I'm asking you, what land do you live in? But the more personal question would be, what land do I live in? Nehemiah said, physically, I'm from Philly, but my my manifest is from the kingdom. Baruch Hashem. And again, you can be more specific with that. Nehemiah and say what? The kingdom of who? The kingdom of the rock? The kingdom of the Most High? The kingdom of the kingdom of Yah. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Be more specific with it, to really put a explanation mark on the end of that statement. So I think it's important for us to really understand, and it's important for us to think properly and to have proper thought and to be mindful of what we say. Because as our Kohen was saying in his prelogue, he was saying that a lot of folks, and what he sees, that a lot of folks don't, they just have a preconceived notion when they come into the way that they can take their baggage with them. And they don't want to leave. I think we had great conversation, me and Brother Davis, about this, is that the importance of you leaving your baggage at the train station when you take this new journey. You know how some folks, when they go on a plane trip or they take a train ride, one of the most important items is the baggage, right? Don't forget the baggage. Oh, I lost my baggage. I don't have all my baggage and blah, blah, blah. But for this journey, when you begin to take this journey, one of the important factors is just the opposite, is that you have to leave your baggage. And this is why a lot of folks, they continue to struggle with this way. It's because they've been conditioned to take your baggage, and don't forget your baggage. And they get all out of whack because they did leave their baggage behind. But in this particular journey, when you begin to connect with the Most High and you truly find God within yourself, you have to really let the baggage go. How many of you understand what I'm talking about? You literally have to forget the baggage. And the baggage, you have to. Now, that process is a process to offer your responses. Now, that process takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But you must be taking those steps into just totally annihilating and forgetting, all that conditioning that you did receive. As you learn, you must unlearn, right, Brother Davis? And that's so important to understand. Yael Woman 10 said, I pick up what I need along the journey. Oh, indeed. And so you leave room. And I totally see it like as, this information age and this computer age that we're in and this robotic age that we're in. My goodness, I didn't realize, when we look at the investment side, when we look at the flow of currency, that these big institutions and these big hedge funds, they're using a high percentage, these big banks, a high percentage of their investment is not done by a person. It's actually done by computers and robots. I was like, my goodness. And they're saying in these articles that, you're trying to take the human factor out of it, so you take the emotion factor out of it, and so that decisions can be made based upon allegory. What you put in is what's going to come out. And you don't leave room for, anxiety and fear of, oh man, I'm going to, I can't believe I have such a big drawdown eddies that I have to cut the trade. They totally take the psychology out of it, and then you just take the trade based upon the input that's put into the allegory and in the analogs for the computer to like I Cohen talked about, to act. Because when you look at a computer, all it does is it acts, right? Based upon parameters, it acts. You put in this, it's going to do that, and it's not going to cry about it. And it's going to do that, and it's not going to give you no back chat. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you get with the wife or the husband, you know what I mean? You get that back chat. They do it, but then, or even the children, they do it, but then they put a little back chat in there. They mumbling under their mouth and blah, blah, blah. But no, computers don't do that. So when we, as we continue to grow and we continue to learn ourselves and we continue to settle down with our conscious, with self-conscious, and we continue to understand and really begin to have that relationship with the God woman, the God man that's within us, Baruch Hashem, it's very important that we continue to unlearn or to delete, if I can use the computer analogy, to delete all of that past learning that did us no good. But yet, a lot of times we want to marry and couple that past learning with this way of life and this way of living, and they just don't mesh because it's foreign to our way of life and our way of living of our forefathers. It just is foreign, and so the two don't mix. They like oil and water, and they just cannot mix. You know what I mean? Rabbi Zakari can tell you about oil and some water. You can, I don't care how much water, how much oil you put in there, they will never mix. They will always separate themselves. Being the mechanic, the awesome mechanic that he is, they just separate themselves. And I don't care how much you add to it, they're gonna separate themselves. They won't mix. And so we have to understand that going forward. It's really an important lesson that must be taken to your heart, taken to your head, and put in your subconscious, is that you must unlearn to learn. And that's really the key. Because the more you try to mix them, is the more mixed up you're going to be, because you're never going to take those 10 steps forward, because you're taking 20 back. Because these are two different languages, and one language doesn't understand the other. I really want to put this in layman's terms this day, for those of you who are listening on Facebook or you're listening on YouTube, is that you're not going to get this teaching anywhere. I imagine that this is my desire to get this kind of teaching that I'm getting from the Kohen. I thought I found it in Hagee, didn't find it here. Hagee here in San Antonio in this Cornerstone Church. You see, I thought I find it with Kenneth Copeland and all these so-called evangelists over here in this great shepherd nation America, but it didn't suit me. It was like the oil and water analogy. It just didn't. We couldn't mix. We couldn't come together. We were always. It just didn't mix. So I'm so happy and humbled to be at the feet of the Kohen, and I will never leave him. Never leave him, because I know this is my place. Now, this may not be home for everybody. And this is what I want all of us to understand this day. And this is why I ask you the question, what land do you live in? This is where do you place yourself? Where do I place myself? What land do I live in? Not what land other people want me to live in, but what land am I comfortable with? You see, a lot of people are comfortable with the land that they're in, and you have to respect that. You must respect that. Now let's begin. Let's open up the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth We Break Scrolls. Now remember the question that was asked, which is the title of this lecture, is what land do you live in? Genesis chapter 19, verse 1 from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, or the Hidden Truth We Break Scrolls. If you don't have this Bible, please get it. Please get it. It will be a great assist. And with these holidays coming up and the Christmas that they love, and they give out all these gifts and everything, which is a great thing, give somebody this Abrahamic-Faith Bible. This Bible-believing country that we live in, regardless of what goes on and who's the leader, it will always be said of this nation, America, is that they're a Bible-believing country. They believe in what they call the old book. You hear a lot of well-in-age people call it the old book. Nehemiah says, I thought I'd find this milk and honey with these camps, but I couldn't. But I found it here. Baruch Hashem, Nehemiah, to die for your experiences. And there's still a lot of folks that are still seeking and searching. As I explained to someone this week, you're still out there, drinking these bitter waters, but you haven't found the living waters of the Most High, because you're drinking of these bitter waters, and what do they leave you? Bitter. And you see that with a lot of these people in these camps, and you point them to the Kohen, you take their hand and you bring them right to the feet of the Kohen, and they run away. Why? Because this is not for everybody. And just like our Kohen says, a lot of people just can't handle it. They can't handle this total shift, because it is definitely a 360-degree, shift from what you've been conditioned to learn and do and to act. You see, we've been watching this boob tube, or what they call a television, for so long that they teach you how to act, and you've been conditioned to act a certain way. You're watching these shows on TV where the boys are wearing their pants down to their ankles. That's where they put the belt on their ankles down there. And what do that's how you act. You act upon by what you see. We've been seeing some bad stuff, right? Or some just bad behavior or some bad action. And that's what a lot of folks portray is bad action, and it may be, you may be saying, well, Rabbi, bad is relative. Yes, it is. Because what's bad for one person may be good for another person. Why? It's because of what land that they live in. You see? But when we look at Genesis chapter 18 and verse 1, now the two Melechim came to Sedom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sedom. And when Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. Baruch Hashem. Now, what do we call the Kohen? Rabbi Simon Alter. He calls himself this. Again, that's another question. What do you call yourself? He calls himself this. Anybody know what's the terminology that we give for the Kohen? What are some names that we have for the Kohen? When we say the Kohen, I always explain it this way. The Kohen in the gate. How many of you ever heard our Kohen say this? Or you refer to him as this? He's the Kohen in the gate. Put up a 1. If you say, yeah, I affirm that. He is the Kohen in the gate. Anybody ever heard him say that? Or you may even use the terminology yourself. What does that mean to you when you say he's the Kohen in the gate? What does that mean? That in the gate. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean to you? When you say, okay, he's the Kohen in the gate. If I'm a stranger, I'm a stranger and I don't know nothing about this, but you say, man, what's this gate? Is it the gate to my garden in the backyard? I mean, what is this Kohen in the gate? What does that mean? Adir says he's the protection. He's the Kohen in the gate. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Because look, we're told right here in our Torah in Genesis chapter 19 verse 1 that Lot was in the gate. It says that Lot, he was sitting in the gate of Sedom. My goodness, what is that telling us already? The Kohen in the gate. He is the Kohen that is for this time right now. You're right, the guardian. He's the one right now in the place. In the place of he's the guardian guarding the children of Israel for this time, for this moment, for this period right now. He's in the gate. That means he's active right now. He's not dormant. He's actually active right now in the gate for this age, for this period, for this time, if you want to use Father time, for this time, for this moment, because I'm in the now. For right now, today in 2021, November 6th, over here. So he's the one responsible right now. He's the one given the authority. He's the authoritative figure right now. He's in the gate. Baruch Hashem. Now, what does that say for Lot that we're told in the Torah as the Torah explanation gives us here? It says that when Lot was sitting in the gate of Sedom. Wow, what does that say? And it brings me back to the question, what land do you live in? Yael, woman of 10 says, he's my teacher that leads me to a better life and establishing all my dreams, my connection to the heavens, Baruch Hashem. Your connection to yourself. He connects us to ourself. That's what he did with me, is he connected me with myself. Why? Because I'm a product of those at one time that was, of the conditioning that was, okay, I got to seek God outside of myself. That's step number 1, is to go find him. The Bible says, seek and you will find. So then I got to seek God. From what I understood from the Christian readings of the King Jimmy. But what I really didn't understand was that to seek that is an inner seeking. It's not an outward seeking, but it's an inward seeking. I got to dig into myself. I got to get and establish a relationship with myself. Beautiful, isn't it? But unfortunately, a lot of people still carry the baggage that they need, of the conditioning that they need to go find God in a building, go find God in a location. Go find God. I mean, down here in little Mexico, down here in San Antonio, they finding God in tortillas, man. They're finding God in a taco. They finding God in a statue that of Mary that bleeds, that cries blood. You know what I mean? They go, oh, that's God. Look, God get ready to cry now again. Oh, praise him, he crying. Oh, and they make these pilgrimages and they go see this Mary that actually cries blood. I'm like, my goodness, man. Brother David says the entrance, open to the gate itself, the gate of yourself. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Always in favor says laugh out loud, not the King Jimmy. Yeah, the King Jimmy. So we have to look at this going forward. That conditioning is not going to break overnight. It takes time, but then you got to replace it with the right, with what's going to be producing, something that's going to be productive. Not, again, all of you went through the conditioning in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and you tasted of many different conditionings because you realized one conditioning wasn't good enough and it didn't suit you, so you moved on to another conditioning, and then to where your hair is so conditioned that it's just like it's conditioned out. You got so much conditioner in your hair that it's falling out because you've been conditioned. You went from one conditioning to another conditioning to another conditioning to another conditioning. I mean, my goodness. But you realize, your hair is no longer nappy. It's straight and it's just so fine because of all the conditioning that you received. But kudos to you for not being comfortable and not just settling. Say, okay, well, I guess I just have to settle for this. I guess I just have to settle with just living a confused life and a life that's just like, miserable. This is what God put me here for. You see, again, that's a cop-out. I've heard that this week. Oh, they blame God for everything. Oh, God did this, and God didn't do anything. You did that yourself. Stop trying to point the finger. You see, and that's another excuse of why they don't want to relinquish the outside God, because now they have nobody to blame. You know what I mean? Some of you may have been there. Instead of start blaming yourself and taking responsibility for yourself, you have to have you have to envision and manifest these outside figures so you can put the blame, and they can be the whooping boy and whipping girl for all your problems, or the whooping spirit for all your problems. You see? These are folks that don't even know what land that they live in, and they could care less about what land that they live in. But we see with Lot was what? He was sitting in the gate of Sidon. Now, just on that alone, would you say that Lot was comfortable with Sidon and where he was? If he was sitting in the gate, what would you say? What's your opinion on this? Was Lot comfortable there? Did somebody have to yank his arm and chain him to the gate so he'll stay there and establish his bank there? Do you think that Lot was comfortable where he was? Lot liked his location? In real estate, they say location, 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 location. It's all about location. Think about what Torah's trying to explain to us here. You see? I would submit to you that Lot was very comfortable where he was. You see? You know the story. But let's go on down to Genesis chapter 19. Let's go on down to verse 4. Lot takes these guests in, and again, I'll tell you this, some people are they may be comfortable where they at. How many of you know people like this? They comfortable with where they are. But when a guest comes, then they want to put on a different kind of show, or there's some things in the closet that they don't want people to see, so they try to hide, you know what I mean? So they hide stuff, they kind of want to clean up the place a little bit because they have guests coming. Or they kind of embarrassed. Some of you know people like that. They're comfortable where they are, but when guests come, then they want to put on another front. Like, oh, okay, no, you don't want to go see that part. Stay over here in this clean section. You know what I mean? Or have you ever heard this? Hey, let's pull out the fine china because we got guests coming. Now, how many of you heard people say that or even actually do that? Okay, let's not use these dishes. Let's go get these other dishes, take the dust off of them. We're going to use these because we got guests coming. You see what I'm saying? So Lot he has guests come in. He's got these these two guests, these two Melechim, these guests, these two men, Baruch Hashem. Look at Genesis chapter 19, verse 4. Now before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sidon, both young and old, and all the people from every quarter surrounded his bait. Look at verse 5. And they called to Lot, and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them carnally. Baruch Hashem. Wow. Now, Lot is familiar with these guys' character because, look, he's sitting in the gate. He knows the character of these guys, and he feels embarrassed, doesn't he? Now, you're going to see it in a minute, but he does feel embarrassed. But now what the Torah wants to show us is the land that these people live in, this land called Sidon. We're starting to get into the real estate of this land. Location, location, location. How these people think. Remember how Kohen talked about in his lecture? How they act. Did this verse right here in Genesis chapter 19, verse 5, give us a description of how these people act? What are their actions? How many of you see that? You can read it for yourself. Bring these two men out to us, and I'm paraphrasing, that we may know them carnally. Baruch Hashem. I mean, come on, man. Do you not see that? Clear as day, isn't it? The actions of people. What land do you live in? Here's the embarrassing side. Here it comes. And Lot went out, so Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him. Oh, why you shut the door, Lot? You don't want the guests to meet all these people. All ththese guests came to see these two men that you have here, and you shut the door behind them because you want to talk to these guests. You want to talk to these, could we say Nehemiah, your homeboys? Could we say that these were Lot's homeboys? Right. His homeboys came out. His homies. His homies came to his house. They knew where Lot lived. Why? Come on. Why? Because Lot was what? Because Lot was what? He was sitting in the gate of Sidon. Come on now. So these are his homies coming over, Says, hey, man, we got some fresh meat here. We heard through the grapevine, because gossip spreads quick, you know what I mean? News gets around in Sidon quickly, right? Yes, road talk. Yeah, get around quickly. So we know we got fresh meat in the house. How about we meet them? And so Lot goes out, and in verse 6, so Lot went out to them in the doorway and shut the door behind them and said, please, my brethren. He said, please, homies. Hey, homies, come on now, please, bro. Don't do so wickedly. I mean, I know y'all wicked, but just don't do so wickedly. Now, again, what land do you live in? What land do you live in? What land where you feel comfortable? And Lot was very comfortable here. He's very comfortable in this environment. No problems. So what? The people are wicked. I'm gonna sit at the gate. I'm not gonna say I'm in it. I'm not all the way in it, but I'm outside. I'm comfortable being on the outside, on the fringes of it. Just put me on the fringes on the outside. Everybody know me though. If they want to do all that stuff, I like being in those surroundings. I enjoy being in those surroundings. Same way this ain't 2021. Ain't nothing wrong with Rabbi Kefa talking about watching all this news media. That's all bad. Ain't nothing wrong with watching and being around all these surroundings. Ain't nothing wrong with going out here and listening to some other leaders out there that call themselves leaders of the Torah. There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not affecting me none. So what did they, mistreat their women over here or call people outside of their name over here? That's no big deal. I want to understand how they believe. So, I kind of like some of these teachings. Some of them are okay. Not everybody in there is wicked. Evil. I'm pretty sure there's somebody in the camp that really loves their wife and holds them in high esteem and treats them like a queen. Lot says in verse 7, oh, please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. He didn't say, hey, look, man, stop the wickedness. You see what he's saying here? I mean, Lot has the character of a great politician. You know what I mean? Because he's like, okay, I got to take care of these holy men, these upright men, but at the same time, Oliver, what is he doing? Oh, hey, man, look, can y'all not be so wicked? I know y'all wicked, but can you, like, take it easy a little bit? These men, look, man, you don't want to mess with these men, bruh. You know what I mean? These men, you can't have these men and do your carnally thoughts or your actions that you want to, take on these men, this fresh meat, so you say, bruh. Again, what land do you live in? What land do you live in? Let's go to verse 8. See now, I have 2 daughters who have not known man. Please let me bring them out to you that you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason why they came under the shadow of my roof. So Lot's base is protection for him. And if you read in the commentary there, which is still a tradition that holds true today in the East, guests are treated with high esteem. Great commentary written by the Kohen in the Gate. That's an Eastern tradition. In the West, it's there, but not prevalent like in the East. Guests are held in high esteem. And I do see that, especially in the South. I don't know. I'm in the South here in North America. I don't know how it is up north. Maybe somebody that lives up north can tell me. But I'm going to tell you what, when you come down south and you go into somebody's house, and I don't care, I see it in China as well, big time. I mean, you see some of the, people with, that may not be some of the wealthiest people in the world, maybe living hand to mouth, but when guests come, they give you, full service, and they take out and they give you the best meal that they can give you, and it would behoove you to eat that meal. Especially, I'll tell you, my grandmother was like that. Old Creole Cajun woman that she was there in Louisiana. You go to Louisiana and somebody offer you some food, you better eat their food, because they're giving you, their food is how they honoring you with their food, and you don't reject their food. Oh my goodness, don't do that. You're the guest. And so they want to give you their best. And they pull out the fine china and they pull out everything. I don't know, Oliver, is it like that in France? Is it like their Lion King, Lion Princess in the UK? Is it the same way when guests come and you roll out the red carpet and, whatever meat you was eating during the week, you're going to eat a different meat tonight. Is it like that as well? So this is a custom that we see that's been around for a very, very long time, is that we treat your guests with much, much respect. Much respect. Even more so that you're not having an effect, even more so that, you got to marry off a daughter or two to appease these men over here, then so be it. But don't harm my guests. Don't mistreat my guests. These are my guests, and they're under my roof. I know, and Hakoin will tell you that this is big in the Muslim culture. I see it. I watch movies and seen this stuff, man. It's real. I mean, they take this very, very seriously. They really do. Very, very big. So let's keep reading here. Look at verse 9 of Genesis chapter 19. And they said, stand back. Then they said, this one came in to stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Oh my goodness. That's one of the big things you don't want to be, is judgmental. Don't put yourself in a judgment seat, and don't make yourself a judge, because that irritates a lot of people. And that's one of the misconceived notions, and this is what you get when you get Torah Judaism, is that they're so judgmental. I tell you, I went to a synagogue and got judged very harshly. I was told I didn't belong there, which, yeah, that was a proper judgment. But just by the way it came across, my goodness, it's very harsh, and very disrespectful. And it's almost shameful, you know what I mean? So you never want to, in our way of life, we never want to judge anybody. I don't care if they want to eat pork chop sandwich. We're not there to judge them. We're in a Gentile nation. Why are we going to judge them with a Torah standard? Let them do what they want to do, Mishpachah. And if they're happy doing it, so be it. Leave them to their happiness and however they're happy. And as you see them, as the men and the people there in Sodom and Gomorrah, they were happy doing what they do to other people. They took their pleasure in forcing themselves upon other people and disrespecting other people. I want you to see this character and the actions of the people, because this is important. What land do you live in? This is important to understand. This is a land that's about to get destroyed because of what? Of unjust behavior. We need to be mindful of this behavior and learn from this. Baruch Hashem. Very, very important. Now, we will deal worse with you than with them. See? Behavior. Action. You see? All this dealing that they're talking about doing, Nehemiah, they didn't realize that they was about to get dealt with. You see what I mean? Do you see karma in this? How you want to deal with people is how the dealings is going to come back on you. Baruch Hashem. They talking about judgment, and they're the ones that's passing the judgment. I tell you, isn't it ironic? It's so ironic how what people say actually reflects and comes back on them. They were talking about Lot and the Lot being judgmental, and yet they were the ones that were being judged. Wow. This is why it's so important that you be very, very careful on what you say. Very, very careful on what you say. Because what you say will manifest. This is why HaKohen is teaching us to script what we want, what we desire, begin to say, begin to speak it, begin to write it. Why? Because now we're changing. It's a total paradigm shift from what we've been conditioned to do. Well, they said I'm a black man and I come from Africa. That's all I know, because that's all they tell me on the news. And they say that we're black and we're cursed, and so we're cursed and we're from Ham because we're black, and we were cursed down because they left us in a fire too long and we became dark, and black is bad, and stay away from the black cat because it's evil, and black is darkness, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You see how you go down the rabbit hole? And before you know it, you're less than a man because you black and brown, and you consider yourself nothing. And you consider yourself broke. Well, my mama was broke and busted and disgusted. I'm going to be the same way. I'm never going to have a great relationship. You see how you can begin to just all this stuff. But somebody's got to change. There's got to be a paradigm shift. If you like the land that you live in, if you're comfortable where you at, Lot was. Comfortable. Very comfortable where he was, man. Ain't no problem. Whether these men came to rescue him or not, he was happy with his conditions. He was happy. Nowhere in this Torah, in this reading here, in chapter 19 of Genesis, does it talk about, and Lot was sad and mad and not happy with his living conditions. Don't see that. Doesn't say that. But let's look at the actions here. What do we see? What do we see in the actions? Lot is trying to play both sides, isn't he? He's confused on what land he want to be in, right? I don't know. Well, look, I gotta take care of the homeboys. You know, the homeboys, they my homies. We play cards on Friday nights, and Billy over there owed me some money. So I gotta get my money back before I leave, so you know what I mean? So again, and then on this other side over here, he's keeping unleavened bread, and appeasing this side. Like, okay, yeah, okay, come stay in my house. You're welcome in. You're safe under my roof. But don't go out there. Don't think about sleeping in the square. You go out there and want to sleep in the square. Oh my goodness. I can't protect you out there. It's dangerous. Then why are you here? Why are you here, Lot? If it's such a dangerous environment, why are you subjecting your family, your children, your daughters to this environment? Why won't you move them to a safer place? Why? Because I like the land that I live in. And some folks are just like that. They like the land that they live in. Don't try to go there and force them out of their land where they're comfortable. Where they're happy there. with all of this bad going on around them. And they right up in the mix and they totally happy with it. Oh man, this city has the biggest mall. Why would I want to leave this city? This city has the best restaurants. Why am I trying to leave this city? This city's great. Regardless of how they treat the people, so what? You know, people get taken advantage of. I'm not getting taken advantage of, so what? Big deal, no problem. At the expense of somebody else, so folks get their happiness and get their desires fulfilled at the expense of someone else. Oh, that's not my problem. I'm gonna turn a blind eye. Y'all just don't do so wickedly, but little wickedness here, little wickedness there. Potato, tomato, tomato, Some people comfortable there. So what if I watch Fox News and they give me all this side and so what if I watch CNN and they telling me to hate Trump and, burn his house down and blow? So what? That's not affecting me. Yes, it is. Because you know why? If you truly desire to have some desires, your focus will be on your desires, not what's going on in the world. Because what you're doing is you're manifesting your world. Now, if you're comfortable doing that, then stick with it. Watch again, aren't we in an information age to where you can watch news 24/7 if you wanted to, sit in front of the TV, get on your lazy boy chair with your favorite beverage and watch news 24/7, 24 hours a day. What is that going to get you at the end of the day? Spend, waste valuable periods of your life doing that. And conforming to these opinions that they want you to conform to. I'm not gonna waste my time on my periods of my life on this earth doing that. That's foolish. I'm running and I'm in pursuit of desires and manifesting a wonderful and beautiful and a happy life and a life full of abundance, exceedingly, Baruch Hashem, abundant in all areas and aspects of my life, and establishing great relationships with energy, with energies, Baruch Hashem. That's what it's about for me. And the rest is commentary. But for me, that's what it's about. So they tried to stampede against Lot and came near to break down the door. My goodness. How many of you used to be in stampede mode? Oh man, I have this truth, and if I'd encourage you, when you come into the facts of our way of living, of the ancient of the ancients, of our forefathers, don't get in stampede mode to where, okay, I'm going to tear the door down and you're going to listen to me, woman. I did that. I was there before. Went in stampede mode, throwing away Christmas trees and Christmas presents and cursing down these Gentile holidays. And I was stampede mode. I'm tearing the door down, telling my neighbors they white Jesus is fake. And they love white Jesus. Man, I had to go apologize to my neighbors. I said, I'm sorry for talking about your white Jesus like that. I'm sorry for, putting down what you believe in. I don't want to shame you. I didn't want to, but yeah, I had to go do that because that was totally wrong, man. Boy, I turned my neighbors, I've been knowing my neighbors for years. That turned them off big time. They're like, wait a minute. Because that's what they believe in. That's the land that they're in. And they're comfortable there. I'm not trying to pack them up and move them out. That's not my place to do that. But again, I had just come into the facts on the ground. I had just connected with the Kohen in the gate, watching his videos on YouTube. I didn't know any better, but I thought I did. Okay, I need to do, because of the conditioning, because of the land I was in. I'm just following the recipe. Okay, now I have to go tell everybody else. I was told this. I have this understanding. Now it's time for me to go tell everybody else. You're going to hell, man. Wouldn't even know hell. You don't even know God. You far from him. Get out of that church. Oh man, I can't say that in Bible Belt South. Tell people not to go to church? Ooh-wee. That's going to start some fights there, Oliver. Tell people to quit going to church? See, that's that stampede mode that the Torah's talking about here. It can go both ways. And especially as you come into this perfect law, stay away from the stampede mode. Perfect law internalizes everything. Everything happens on the inside, right? The outside begins to manifest all these physical things of what starts and originates where. The origins take place on the inside. I love that about the perfect law. The perfect law is judgmental only to who? Only to you and I. I gotta judge my perfect law. Where do I need to fine tune my perfect law? So that I can begin to manifest and begin to, create the desires and call forth the desires of my heart being presented in this physical realm, in this earthly realm. You see? What land do you want to live in? You see? Stay away from the stampede mode. How many of you have been there? Put up an answer. You say, Rabbi Kefa, I know that stampede mode where you want to go and tear down doors. And I did it. And it was wrong. The stampede mode is wrong. You don't want to get in stampede mode. To where you forcefully entering into somebody else's house. They don't want you in their religious house. Stay away. If that religion is not for you, that's cool. But they comfortable where they are. Then you leave them there. They're happy where they are. Then you leave them there. And if they're not, then believe me, they'll come and find you. They'll come and say, man, I'm just totally not happy. I'm not at peace with myself anymore. Then let's find that peace. Some people are at peace with the Pope. Here in North America, a lot of people are at peace with the Pope. I'm telling you, they are. They're at peace with the Pope. So you got to leave them to the Pope. I'm going to stick with the priesthood of Israel. That's what my peace is. But we can still go have dinner together, right? We can agree to disagree, right? It depends on what land that they're in. If their land dictates that, hey, if you don't accept my Pope, then I can't have nothing and no communications and no relations with you, then so be it. Then that's what it's going to be, right? We have to respect the land that people are in. And we can't forcefully, pull them out. Forcefully, we can't do it. But we can get inside our inner selves and do some awesome things. You can change the behavior of your boss from the inside. You can do that from the inside of yourself. You don't have to tell your boss a thing. Your boss is going to tell you exactly what you want your boss to tell you. Ooh, think about that for a minute. How many of you want a raise in the room? Begin to see your boss giving you a raise and telling you, hey, congratulations, you've been an awesome employee, and we're giving you a raise. Well, how many of you saying, Rabbi Kefa, I'm taking even a step further. I don't have a boss. I am the boss, Baruch Hashem. That's the DNA of the Hebrew. They are the boss. They are running the show. But again, if you do have a boss, then see yourself getting a raise. You see, if you don't begin to see yourself doing these things and begin to visualize these things happening, then they'll never come. As much as you complain. I don't want to stay in that land of Complainville. I'm not going to stay in Complainville, and I'm not going to stay in Depressionville. That's not my land. I'm not comfortable there, you see. But a lot of folks are. A lot of folks are. So let's keep reading. Look at Genesis chapter 19, verse 10. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the bait into the house with them and shut the door. Look at verse 11. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the bait of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. There's a lot of allegory in that too. You look at the literal, but man, when you start to break down the allegory, my goodness. There's a lot of people around you that are just still blinded. And this is why it's very important that we don't say anything. They can't find the door for the trees. And so you got to leave them to it. They'll never find the door to the perfect law. They never find it. Why? It's because they don't desire to seek it. So why are we sitting here, or acting like they want to open that door to the perfect law when they don't. Just like the Millennium did, they couldn't find the door. They made it to where they couldn't find the door because they couldn't find it. You're talking two different levels here. You're talking two different worlds. Baruch Hashem. Not that you guys can't get along in two different worlds or in the land that they want to be in the land that you want. That can happen. That totally can happen because we're human beings and by nature, we're social creatures. We want to socialize. But we just don't want to socialize with everybody that we agree with. And Nehemiah, correct me if I'm wrong, but a majority of these groups that you'll find the so-called under the umbrella of the Torah, they tell you, look, we can't socialize with people outside of us. If you don't agree with us, then you're not with us. If you don't believe our manifest, then you're against us. And you don't belong here and they're going to bounce you out. Oh, you say the name this way? You're out. You're out. Oh, you don't agree with everything we say? Oh, you're out. You don't belong. Can we all not agree to disagree and still get along with one another? Some folks are diehard fans to their land, and they will not be moved. And if you want to stay on their land, then you have to stay on their land with their terms. We have to be open to all. And Cohen has taught me that to see in 4 dimensions and see it and come out of this bubble and this shell and be open to all. Open your mind. You must be open. If you stay shut, that's because you want to stay shut. And nobody will be able to open it. And you'll be blinded, and you'll never find that door. You'll never find that door to desire. That door to love. That door to peace. It's because truly you don't desire to find it. And so you'll be blinded to it. And a lot of folks are. What needs to be understood is that there are people in the world that are just like this. They're comfortable with the land that they're in. And don't try to move them over to your land. That's not our place. Let them be comfortable there. Let them be happy there because they are. You don't judge them and tell them that they're not happy. When they're totally happy there and they're totally comfortable there and they're totally blinded. You see that, but they don't because you can see, Baruch Hashem, and give great gratitude and thanks to the Most High and to our Kohen in the gate for giving you sight. Not only with those 2 eyes, but with that third eye, that more important eye. That's not charged in a lot of folks. They don't even realize it's there. Because why? That door is shut. And they're blinded. And they can't find that door. Until they're willing to say, I don't want to be blind anymore. I want to see. Then they will see. But if they're happy where they are, then you have to leave them to it. Baruch Hashem. So we keep it moving. Look, let's go on to Genesis chapter 19, verse 12. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here? A son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, or whoever you have in the city. Take them out of this place. Look at verse 13. For we would destroy this place. This place will be destroyed because of the outcry against them has grown great before the face of Yahweh, and Yahweh has sent us to destroy it. Destruction comes. A lot of folks are saying, God has destroyed me. No, people have destroyed themselves. Do you all understand that? Individuals destroy themselves. This is what the Torah is explaining here. These Melechim, these angels are explaining this. These heavenly ones are explaining this. Is that people destroy themselves. Look at this behavior that they displayed to us just while we were here. We see it with our own eyes. It's their actions. Their acting out behavior has destroyed them. You get it? God don't destroy you. You destroy yourself. These people have destroyed themselves, right? You have destroyed. You don't sit there and try to blame God. Yet people do. They have to have that outside figure, to outside thought, to where they can pass the buck and point the finger. See, that propels them further away from even dealing with the relationship with themselves. Because they can always have a whipping boy or whipping girl. No offense. They can always have that scapegoat. Genesis chapter 19, verse 14. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law. Now get this. Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who married his daughters and said, get up, get out of this place, for Yahweh would destroy the city. But his sons-in-law, he seemed to be joking. But to his sons-in-law, he seemed to be joking in their sight, and they mocked him. Whoa, does that not sound familiar? Hakoim comes along. He's like the Melechim. He's like the heavenly ones. He comes along and says, hey, man, you have to get up and you have to get out of this place. This is not who you are. You have to do things this way. You should be doing things this way. And yet some folks, what do they say? Oh, you're a joke. And then they sit there and they mock him. You know, you've seen it for those of you who've been here for a while. You've seen it. People come and go through here like no man's business. Hakoim has so many videos on YouTube. And yet some people take them, and because they don't understand, because they blinded, they consider this some kind of joke. And they sit there and they mock. We don't do that. In perfect law, you know, this Torah of Moshe is never wants to shame anybody or put anybody down. Never, never, never. Ever, ever, ever do you want to do that under this way of living, under this perfect law. And that's what you'll get sometimes. Why? Why were these sons-in-laws and these, you know, that were married to his daughters, you know, why would they, you know, they saw him as a joke? And they mocked him because why? They're comfortable where they are. They love the land that they live in. You're not going to try to take them and redirect them or reestablish them somewhere else. Can't do that. Great lesson of the Torah is you have the ability as human beings to choose whatever you desire for yourself. And their desire was not to go. So what do you do with that? You leave them be. Look at verse 15 of Genesis 19. When the morning dawned, the Melechim urged Lot to hurry, saying, arise, take your wife and your daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. Verse 16. And while he lingered, again, Torah is giving you little hints and little clues to the actions of Lot. Because Lot's actions are what his desires are, right? Learn that from my Kohen's lecture. Your actions are what your desires are. What are you acting on? That's what your desire is. You acting like you don't have money? Guess what? Your desire will say you won't have money. And your relationship with money won't find you because you acting like you don't have money. What is Lot's actions here in Genesis chapter 19, verse 16? And while Lot lingered, it's like Lot, you lollygagging, you know. The men took hold of his hand. My goodness. Look, let me spoon feed this to you. Took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his two daughters. Look, these men were not playing. And like Hakoim always tell you, I'm going to give you the facts on the ground, but can you handle it? Can you handle it? He took hold of their hands and get this, look what the Torah said. Yahweh being merciful to him. My goodness, isn't that not mercy? And they brought him out and set him outside the city. Now they're placing him outside of this place where he was very comfortable. Taking him outside the city. Look at verse 17. So it came to pass when they had brought him, when they had brought them out, that he said, escape for our lives, escape for your lives. Do not look behind you. Escape for your lives. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere near the plains. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. Looking behind. Escape for yourself. Escape for yourselves. You gotta want to. Self gotta want to do this escape. Self gotta want to change. Self don't want to change. Self won't change. Do not look behind you. Don't look back. Y'all know the story. We were taught this in Christianity, about looking back. Don't look back. Nor stay anywhere near the plane. Totally get out of that environment. When you leave the baggage at the train station before you get on the train for your journey, leave the baggage and don't think about it. But yet the baggage come creeping right back. The baggage has a way of finding you. And before you know, you're picking up those old habits that you thought you had just gotten rid of. Those old habits, they'll creep in real subtle. And there'll be a stumbling block in your manifesting, a stumbling block in your affirming, a stumbling block in your relationships. A stumbling block from you meeting your desires. Why? It's because that good old baggage has found you again. Don't look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Get far away from it. I don't know if you've heard any of Hakoi's teachings, especially when it comes to those end times. He talks about mountains a lot. and one of the teachings, he talked about how mountains in some instances is meant it means countries, nations. I mean, he's saying, look, go to a total different, get away. Go to a different country, a different nation somewhere, and reestablish yourself. Stay far away. Not to say, listen, we in these Gentile nations, not to say we'll take ourselves and exclude ourselves from the environments that we're in. We've been established in these nations and placed in these particular locations for a reason. And it's not to segregate ourselves from these Gentile nations. It's to integrate. The Torah tells us that we mixed in with these nations, and surely we did. It's a mixing that takes place. We're to help these nations, not harm them. We're to build these nations up, not tear them down. We're to make these shepherd nations greater. We live in some great shepherd nations. Man, France is a great shepherd nation, man. UK, great shepherd nation. United States of America, great shepherd nation. I mean, people beating down the walls to get into these countries, man. They want to be here, yet we're here. And do we show gratitude and thanks on the daily for being in these great shepherd nations? Don't look behind you. Don't second guess. What you want is what you want. Don't let nobody tell you that, the past life was better. Don't let that creep in. That'll happen. Some folks get around you, man, I like the old you better. And before you know it, you start thinking, man, the old you was better. I didn't have to do all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have to do this. Oh, man, I didn't have to deal with myself. That was so much better. Actions, man. Actions. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. Look at verse 18 of Genesis 19. Then Lot said to them, oh no, not so, my Yahweh. I indeed now your servant. Indeed now your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have revealed great unmerited favor, which you have shown to me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. My goodness. Again, you're getting instruction from your saviors. They're giving you sound advice, sound instruction, yet no. You have a better way. You have a better plan. You're more experienced. Listen to what Lot says there. Because the Torah comes back, and I'm going to go and read it right after I read this. The Torah comes right back and explains, and Lot ends up exactly where he was supposed to go in the first place. You see, taking sound advice from the right persons or people will do yourself a great service than you trying to, run off your own experiences and think you know better. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. Remember that verse there. And Genesis chapter 19, verse 19. Now, I want to take you to Genesis chapter 19, verse 30. Look at what happens in the end. Genesis chapter 19, verse 30. And Lot went up from Zoar and dwelt in the mountains. Wait a minute. He recommended another place, which was this Zoar place he thought was better, right? But then it says here in Genesis chapter 19, verse 30, that Lot went up from Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him. For he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. This is exactly where the Melechim, the angels, the messengers from the Most High, told Lot to go. But Lot had a better idea. Genesis chapter 19, verse 20. See now, this city is near enough for me to flee, for it is a little one. Please let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live there. So that was Lot's idea. You see, when you're getting sound advice, listen, correct me if I'm wrong, but these messengers of the Most High, these angels, heavenly messengers, had just rescued Lot and his family, right? So would you not have all trust in this particular man or men? Yet at the same time, he had heeded his advice up to that point. But then at the same time, now he comes in and says, no, I have a better idea. I'd like to go to this city over here. It's still on the fringes of what I used to know as Sodom and Gomorrah. So, I still like to remember some of the old past. Keep some of them old memories alive. Let me just go stay over here. I have a better idea. And we found out that it was not a better idea. Genesis chapter 19, verse 30. And Lot, I've got to read this again. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, for he and his 2 daughters were with him. For he feared. He had fear there. But yet he said this was the best place for him. This was rest for his soul, and all this, that, the other, and the third. I would encourage you all, you listening via live, you listening on YouTube, and you listening on Facebook, or whatever social outlet that's out there. Your rescuer, the Kohen in the gate, he rescued you, right? Didn't he free you? You've been freed. You've been rescued. You're whole. You're complete now. You know who you are. Don't leave him now. Why would, no, he's been giving you direction. He's been giving us guidance and instruction. Why would you stop now and want to do things your way? Don't stop. I would encourage you all to continue on. Heed his instruction. It will take us very, very far. And it will prevent us from running into these situations and experiences where we run in doubt, we run in fear, we're put in these situations where if we would have just listened, you'd have ended up in the mountain where he told you to go in the first place. If we'd have just listened. But no, we have a better idea. We have better choices and better decisions for our lives. And at the end of the day, HaKohen only wants the best for Israel. He's here for Israel. He's here for us. And then from that for everybody else as well. But number one mission for the Kohen in the gate is for the children of Israel. That's his number one mission. And then, just like we're told in this portion that we just read, Yahweh being merciful, it branches out to all creation, all his creation, people, plants, and pets, Baruch Hashem. That's how it goes down. And that's how it will be. So, one last final point I'd like to make here is this, is that truly we see that Lot was real comfortable where he was. Yeah, he was happy to be rescued, but still, you know, he was kind of sad. He still was hanging on to a lot of his past. Why I see this is because, number one, real estate. Listen, if somebody telling me something's going to be destroyed, listen, all right, here we go. Let's replay this. If you had bird's eye inside information that the United States of America was getting ready to drop the atomic bomb on Japan, on Hiroshima, how many of you would say, okay, can I just relocate to another little small island of Japan? Or how many of you are saying, look, I want to relocate in Europe, in South America, in North America. I want to get as far away from that atomic bomb as I can. Of course you say, I want to get as far away because, again, the after effects of that atomic bomb, it spreads. And so, man, they're still trying to deal with that over there. And people are still, you know, dealing with the side effects of what happened when the atomic bomb fell there in Japan. This is the same thing. You know, because you love the land so much, you want to stay close to it when there's dangers in that land. And you've been rescued from that land. Why? Because that land was bad from the get-go. Yet you have this attachment with bad and you can't let go. Learn from Lot. Learn from this whole situation. And you know, and my last point here that I'd like to make here is this. Look at Genesis chapter 19, verse 26. They were instructed not to look back. Don't look back. Don't look back. We see it. Genesis 19 and 26. But Lot's wife looked intently from behind, hesitating, and she became a statue of salt. What does salt mean to you? When you see salt, what does it mean? Any opinions? What does salt mean to you? When you see salt, when you hear somebody say salt, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? You know, the first thing that comes to my mind is I see these old Indian movies, the indigenous people of this land, how they used to hang. Cause I used to watch a lot of Westerns, man. My father loved Westerns, so we used to watch a lot of Westerns, John Wayne. And we see these Western movies where, you know, you see these Indians and they got all this meat hanging like on this little clothesline and, or in their little teepees. And I see them rubbing salt all on it. How many of you ever seen that before? They were taking a lot of salt and they were rubbing it on their meat. They were rubbing it on their meat. They were rubbing. It was freaking cold outside. And so they had them in this little tent with like a little warming tent. And they had all their meat hung in there and they would keep rubbing salt on it. What does salt mean to you? When you hear salt, when you see salt, what does it mean to you? You say flavor. Any takers? What does that mean to you? When you see salt. When I see salt, I see preservation. You want to preserve, like them Indians, they were trying to preserve their meat. It was, you know, you put salt on meat, it preserves it. And you heat it, and you warm it, keep it in the warmer, and it preserves the meat. Any of you ever eaten beef jerky before? It's the same way. It's salted beef that's been preserved. And you can keep beef jerky for a long, long time. So, you know, this preservation, why did she become why did Lot's wife become a statue of sugar? Why didn't she become a statue of olives? Why salt? Because she wanted to preserve the old way, her old way of living. She wanted to remember that old life. She was missing that old life. She was like, man, oh man, she was reminiscing, and she wanted to preserve that old way of life. And you see that with people today. They want to preserve their old ways. They don't want to change. They don't want the paradigm shift, and you got to leave them to it. You must leave them to it. If they don't want to preserve, if they don't want to change their way, and they want to just preserve the forever ways of what they understood and where they're comfortable in their conditioning, the forever ways of Jesus Christ, the forever ways of Hail Mary, the forever ways of whatever they want to preserve, then you have to leave them to it. You can't change them because they're always looking back. And you'll see that as students of human nature. Some people come into the way, you give them a golden nugget, you give them just a little taste of perfect law. See what they do with it. And before you know it, you find that they quickly back into their old habits and their old ways. They want to preserve that way. And that's understandable. And that's respectable. And you have to respect that because that's what they want to do. You have to respect their actions. Now, their actions don't have to be your actions. Your actions, you dictate what you want to do with yourself. Now the question is, back to the title of the lecture. You know, what land do you live in? What land do you desire to live in? What land do you want to preserve? And Lot and his wife, you know, his wife actually looked back, but Lot had those same feelings as well. He was hesitant. He lingered. He just lingered. He wasn't quick to get out of there. It wasn't like he was in a hurry to leave. See them sitting at the gate, Baruch Hashem. He's gonna miss his homeboys. Wasn't gonna be able to hang out with the homies in the morning anymore and play cards and all this, that, the other, and the third. So, Lot was, again, and then you see it reflected in what his wife did. His wife actually looked back like, man, I want to preserve that old way of life that I had in Sidon. You're going to find a lot of people are going to be like that because they love the land that they're in. They love that land of Sidon. Sedomite for life, baby. They love that land. And you have to respect that. But more importantly, we have to look within ourselves and say, well, where are we at? What land am I projecting for myself? What land am I forecasting for myself? What land am I acting out now? A land of wickedness or just a little bit of wickedness? Or a land of just infinite abundance? I like the way Lady of the Tent put it. Yael, Lady of the Tent, she put it, a land flowing with milk and honey. That's the land you're making for yourself. That's the land that you see for yourself. And that's the land that will be for yourself. It's whatever land you put you in. Is it a land of destruction? Of Sodom and Gomorrah? Is it a land of just destruction? Sodom and Gomorrah? Is it a land of destruction? Land of destitute? A land of disaster? A land of depression? A lot of people are putting themselves in these kind of lands. And they live there. And they're happy to habitate these particular lands. And so you leave them to their happiness. And do not waste your energy on trying to grab them by the hand and take them out of this land. And they keep telling you by their actions, oh, I want to go back. I want to go back. Then you have to let them go back. Family member, friend, loved one, son, daughter, you must allow them to do whatever they desire to do. Whatever land they want to be in. Land of confusion, leave them there. A land of blindness, you have to leave them there until they desire to want to see. The great teacher Yeshua ben Yosef did that as well. He didn't give people what they didn't desire. If they desired to be fed, he fed them. If they desired to see, they saw. If they desired to have life within their being, then he gave it to them, what they desired. I'm going to give you what you desire. We should be the same way. We don't give out this perfect law just to give it out like candy. No, we guard. We don't give this perfect law, we guard it. And those that want this perfect law, they're going to seek out and find you. You don't have to go find it and search it for them. What a great lesson I got from our Kohen and putting everybody on voicemail. No, if they want to seek out HaKohen, they will come and find him. They'll find him. And truly, they'll seek him out and find him. They'll find him. And if you truly desire the Kohen, you'll find him. And then he'll find you. Because that's what you desire. And that's why he's on the sunny shores of Karachi right now. Is because these individuals, these students desired the Kohen. And he's there. And what a great blessing that they do have there. I would encourage them just to take heed, take it to heart, and put it into action, and begin to act out what he says, and their lives will be better. He will assist you in meeting your desires. He's not going to give you some desires. Here, take from this list of desires. No, he's going to tell you what do you want, and let me show you how you get there. This is the blueprint. Trust me, believe me, have faith in me if you want, or you can do the opposite and see where it gets you. I want to work smarter, not harder. I just want to work smart. In every aspect of my life, to be smart, to make wise decisions, to have great experiences. So that's where we are, Mishpah. So on that note, I think I'll wrap it up for this Shabbat. And we'll continue to move forward, and we'll continue to look and analyze this Torah from a total different point of view, and not the point of view that you get from Judaism. I truly have a high respect for, all religions, again, all religions. And, I have a lot of friends that are in Judaism. I'm attracting more friends that are in Judaism. But they have a respect for my way of life, and I have a respect for their way of life, and that's what it is. And we get along. They stick to their traditions, and I just go back to the perfect law. They can keep their traditions. That the traditions of Judaism have usurped the true essence and the spirit of the Torah of Moshe. Truly has. The spirit has been usurped by tradition, and they're very happy there. And I say, so be it. Then stay there and be happy. So on that note, I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpah. Oh, remember, I don't know if they're doing this over there in Karachi, HaKohen, but tonight we set our clocks back. We fall back over here in the West. Make sure you set your clocks back. With all this information age and technology, everything does it itself. I know my iPhone does it. It does it by itself. So it'll say, but if you have any clocks in your house, make sure you set them back an hour. We fall back. We're falling back, but we always falling forward. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Christians fall back. I did a lot of falling back in Christianity, by the way. My goodness. They was dinking and dunking me. I may even did all them baptized. Oh, you got to get baptized here. I fell back into the water this way. And no, we need to, we fall forward. Baruch Hashem. We give thanks always to the creator of the heavens and the universes and this earth and the powers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as we continue to move forward in this Torah. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up on this end. Remember, set your clocks back 1 hour tonight before you go to bed, and we'll keep it moving. In the nations, Baruch Hashem. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpah. Have a great Shabbat, a great 6 days of labor ahead. Over to you, HaKohen.
Kudos for that, Rabbi Kefa. You've done so many falling back that you still got watermarks on your back. And also, can you send me the lecture, please? And